We question our daily position, seeking answers and definitions. Get the queries off your chest with Ahkam SOS.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. MashaAllah, we're here on another Monday night with a live show answering all of your questions. Now, if you have a question that you'd like to send in, you are more than welcome to send in on any topic, on any issue. Nothing is too silly or too taboo. We are here to answer all your questions, inshallah. Send them via the WhatsApp. Alternatively, send it via the email, ahkamsos@imamhussein3.tv. Or give us a call here in the studio and inshallah, me and the Sheikh will discuss your question. I'm your host, Mohsin Shah, and joining me is Sheikh Ali Ma'ar. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
How are you this evening?
Alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah. Sheikhna, we are in the Hijjah, and normally many people will be going towards Hajj. Many people will be already there, getting ready to perform all the different rituals and so forth. And the last couple of weeks we've been doing different discussions on different aspects of the Ahkam, different aspects of the rituals. One thing we didn't really touch on, and I think this is really actually interesting, is that if an individual wants to go to perform Hajj, does he require the parents' permission? What about if this person is married? Do they need the permission of the spouse? How does it work in terms of, asking permission and having responsibilities and so forth when they want to go to do Hajj?
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. For the purpose of Hajjatul Islam, the first wajib Hajj, for this Hajj, it is not conditional for the son to ask for permission from his father to leave for the Hajj, nor for the wife to ask permission from the husband, permission to leave for the Hajj. These are exceptions that because you have a wajib. Imagine, do you ask permission from your parents to perform salah, for example, or fast, for example? Wajib is wajib. When it comes to wajib, there's no ta'ah, there's no obedience to anyone on this earth except Allah Azza wa Jal. So when he says you pray, you have to pray. Mm-hmm. And that's why we had people who were tortured because they said La ilaha illallah, for example. They wanted to implement Allah's ahkam and rules and ibadah, but they had no choice except to suffer the tortures and such like. So in this case, no, there's no need for permission. Wajib is wajib. They must go and perform the Hajj, which is the first and the wajib Hajj of Islam.
Sheikhna, hijab is mandatory upon all ladies, especially when they wear the ihram as well. Now, according to His Eminence, Sheikh Wahid Khurasani, is it acceptable for our sisters to wear gloves as part of the ihram?
It is not permissible for the woman to wear gloves. I think we mentioned also last time that they're not allowed to cover their face with the burqa or the full veil or the full niqab. Yes, they have to allow this face to be visible. If they want to somehow cover it, or let's say from the heat of the sun, for example, they can wear a tennis visor, as you said.
The visor, yeah.
It shouldn't touch the face, so that kind of thing. So these things should be visible while in ihram, of course.
I see. Sheikhna, we talked about the jamara and your stoning, the shaitan and so forth. And obviously in recent years, the sizes change. Sometimes there's even levels. So according to His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Ishaq al-Fiyad, are we allowed to go and stone the jamara from the second level and so forth?
Yes, the Shaykh allows for the one to hit the jamara from the second floor. Likewise, other maraja will also allow it, some of them. However, Ayatollah Sistani disagrees with this ruling, and he would state that one should hit the original pole or the original stone, which was before this, renovation and extension, and the one should hit the actual pole rather than the left or the right side of the wall, which is now a giant, a big wall. If you go and see it now in Mina, it's a giant wall. So, especially more than one floors. So, according to the marjah, you follow. If you're allowed, then you can hit anywhere, any level. Otherwise, you have to stick by hitting the actual and the original stone.
Shaykhna, when it comes to the miqat that we perform ghusl and we put the ihram on, is it okay for us to perform the ghusl beforehand? Maybe before we're leaving in the hotel, we can do the ghusl and then go to the miqat, even though the miqat has shower facilities and everything available there. So, are we allowed to do the ghusl before?
Yes, it's permissible. Basically, if you're in Medina, your first entry was Medina and then Mecca. You're in Medina, you're in a hotel, you want to go, let's say, this afternoon to Mecca through the miqat of, as we said, Masjid al-Shajara, the miqat of the Ahl Medina. Then you do the ghusl in your hotel, in your flat accommodation, and you wear the ihram. When you go there in Masjid al-Shajara, as we said, you move the ihram with the intention of wearing the ihram. You make the intention. You can either wear it, let's say, inside the Masjid al-Shajara, or you wear it in Medina, and then you make the intention of the ihram inside Masjid al-Shajara, that you are wearing the ihram. You just move the ihram to make the intention of that you're wearing the ihram as a muhrim. So yes, in the hotel, that's fine. You can do the ghusl there.
Excellent. Shaykhna, if one has, the ability to go to perform Hajj, has the finances and so forth, decides to go to do Hajj, goes to Medina, does a ziyarah, goes to Mecca, is going to perform the Umrah, tamattu, but unfortunately this person dies. Now he had the niyyah and everything, the intention, he was there, he was in the Holy Lands, but unfortunately he's passed away, he's died. Is his Hajj accepted, or does someone have to do Hajj on his behalf because it wasn't completed?
Well, that is sufficient, and there's no wujub for the representative, for example, or the one to do the Hajj on behalf of him. He was in ihram, he went inside the haram and so forth. He did some of the amal, then that should be sufficient.
Excellent. Shaykhna, when we're wearing the ihram, we have to do a lot of other things rather than the Hajj rituals. For example, sometimes we have to carry luggage, sometimes we have to get taxis, sometimes we have to use the lifts or the elevators, as they say in America. Wearing the ihram, are we allowed to use the elevators according to His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani?
Yes, it is permissible. Basically, the lifts or the elevators are part of the building or the compound. They are not a moving vehicle on the street in which you're transporting something or yourself from one place to another. So yes, lifts are part of the compound or the building.
Shaykhna, is it permissible to leave Mecca after performing the rites of Umrah tamattu and before the start of the Hajj rituals?
Ayatollah Shirazi would mention that it is permissible. However, it is makruh to leave at this time.
Okay.
You have to stay in Mecca, wait for the Hajj time, and then you wear the ihram for the Hajj. But however, knowing that this individual who's leaving Mecca, let's say he wants to go to Jeddah airport to get his lost baggages,
yes,
which we just recently found, for example, and come back to Mecca, something he needs to go there, but he makes sure that this individual will perform the Hajj amal afterwards. He comes back and he joins the Hujjaj for the Hajj rituals.
Excellent. Shaykhna, one person emailed in, let me find the email, it's right here. Okay. So, my friend wishes to perform Umrah, but she has lots of qada salah. that she can't make them up in this short time. Would her Umrah be valid if she still hasn't performed the qada of her prayers?
You see, we shouldn't mix between the wajibat. I haven't done qada of my salah.
Which is wajib as well.
It's wajib to do the qada of salah, but this evening is going to be the first night of the month of Ramadan. Tomorrow is the first day of month of Ramadan. I haven't prayed my qada.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that I have to abandon the sawm
the fast.
and fasting.
Yes.
Or to abandon my wajib hajj. Everything stays as its own position. So in this case, no, she's allowed to go to the Umrah, but she needs to try to actually perform her qada as soon as possible in the near future. I mean, she can do it in Mecca, for example, or Medina.
There's plenty of time.
Plenty of time, and how we have narrations about the great thawab to pray in the masjid of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or to pray in the masjid of the Al-Haram in Mecca. A great thawab, about 100,000 thawab and so forth for each rak'ah you pray. Something into this level. So the one should take this opportunity to pray the qada in these places, to purify himself from and remove all the burdens from his shoulder. And of course, the qada shouldn't be on the basis of negligence. So the one is trying to do the qada, because they are, let's say, for a couple of years.
Yeah.
It's difficult to pray them all in 1 month, for example.
Obviously. I mean, for those of you who do have qada prayers, please do your best to try and make up for those lost prayers that you've missed. But also, it's all about, if there's a lot, then you have to do something which is reasonable and easy, something you can maintain. Maybe try and cover at least 2 or 3 days every week of qada prayers to make up what you have. And inshallah, we pray for the brothers and sisters that they have no qada prayers, and if they do, inshallah, they'll be able to pay them back as soon as possible. Shaykhna, for those who can't go to Hajj, for many reasons, they can't afford to go, maybe they've got debt, visa rejections and so forth. For those who can't, a lot of us, because of quarantine and COVID, we're not going to be able to go this year. What are the amals for the first day of Hajj?
Of course, we can participate in gaining the thawab of the Hujjaj who are now in Hajj. Some of them, of course, some locally who are in Mecca now, they are allowed to perform the Hajj this year. Very restricted in terms of number. We can actually participate in gaining the thawab by doing these amal. I just mentioned 2 main amal. Initially, to fast the first 9 days of the Hajj. So from the first day of the Hajj till 9th of the Hajj, till the day of Arafah. If you continuously fast these 9 days, as it mentioned in the book of the du'as, يعدل صيام العمر كله. It's equal to fasting the whole entire life of the individual. Imagine that 78 years, they will write as if you have fasted the whole entire life. 60, 70 years, Allah knows how many years. So 9 days of the Hajj to be fasted, which is difficult, of course. Now we are in the middle of the summertime. In some countries, 21 hours of fast, of daytime fasting would be difficult in this case. So that's one of the amal. The second amal is to pray 2 rak'ah, like the Salat al-Subh, between Maghrib and Isha. So when he finishes the Maghrib, he does the amal of the mustahabbat, like Tasbih al-Zahra alayhi salam. He stands for the 2 rak'ah of, let's say, rak'atain for the Salat of the night of the Hajj, let's say, with this intention, mustahab. 2 rak'ah after Alhamd and Surah Qul Huwallahu Ahad, in Surah Tawheed. When he finishes the Qul Huwallahu Ahad, the surah, in both rak'ah, first and second, he recites this verse. So, Alhamd, Surah Al-Ikhlas, and Qul Huwallahu Ahad, finished, you start by reciting this verse straight away. وَوَعَدْنَا مُوسَى 30 لَيْلَةً وأتممناها ب10 فتم ميقات ربه 40 ليلة وقال موسى لأخيه هارون اخلفني في قومي وأصلح ولا تتبع سبيل المفسدين. He recites this ayah and then he goes to ruku' and sujood on each rak'ah. This ayah is in Surah Al-A'raf, ayah 142, just for reference if somebody wants to bring this ayah on the mobile phone, on the Quran, and recite it on the book itself. That should be fine. The thawab is ليشارك الحجاج في ثوابهم. He would participate in gaining the thawab with the hujjaj. Because he couldn't go this year for any reason. So he gains this thawab by actually performing these a'mal, inshallah.
Inshallah. Excellent. Sheikh, now we're going to go to a break right now. Inshallah, join us after the break as we continue the discussion. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. If you have a question that you'd like to send in, send it via the WhatsApp, send it via the email address, ahkamsos@imamhussein3.tv. Alternatively, why not give us a call here in the studio? I mean, the Sheikh will be more than delighted to discuss your question. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalamu alaikum.
Sheikhna, I had a question come in via the WhatsApp, and in regards to wudu and also ghusl, saying that if there's not much considerable time left, if I was to perform ghusl, the wudu, maybe the salah would become qada. What am I to do in this situation?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Of course, there's alternative to the wudu and ghusl when the time is too short, because the ghusl will take much more time than wudu, and the wudu will be also taking some time than the other act which I'll mention now. So when there's no time for ghusl and wudu, then you have to switch as wajib to tayammum. Tayammum, if you have a bit of soil or
dust, I think you could do it with
anything that is available, dust comes at the next stage.
Okay.
So if you got these earth, as known as earth, ard, you can do within 5 seconds, and that's it. You go straight to the salah. But wudu maybe it takes a minute at least to perform, and that of course will cause the one to pray while the sun, let's say, is rising, which means qada. So you don't want to do a salah outside the time. You want to lose this great thawab. So to pray inside the time. So tayammum becomes wajib to avoid you praying outside the time. So of course the one should, even there's water, even there's a warm water, but because of the time shortage, you have to switch to something quicker that speeds your process of being pure instead of wudu, and then to enter into the salah without waiting longer and causing the sunrise or sunset.
Ahsant. Shaykh, what about when you're performing ghusl? Now there's two types of ghusl. We have tartibi and irtimasi. And irtimasi is the one where you take yourself, what's the word I'm looking for? You kind of like indulge yourself with water. Fully immerse yourself. Ahsant. Fully immerse yourself with water. And if I'm to do so, and later on I discover that actually I missed a part, maybe a part of my ear wasn't immersed, maybe I left my hand, maybe my fingertip or something like that wasn't immersed or so forth, I don't feel that the water got everywhere. What is my obligation in that situation?
If you learn that there is something missing from the ghusl, then as a precaution you have to repeat the ghusl again.
Okay.
That's very important.
That's the best thing to do.
Yeah.
Inshallah. Shaykhna, if one becomes junub, can he or she go to sleep without doing ghusl?
In overall, yes, you're allowed to sleep in this state, especially if somebody had this, this state of janaba in the middle of the night, be it through marital intercourse or through wet dream as known, ihtilam. And of course, the one is feeling sleepy, tired, he wants to sleep. He doesn't want to go and wet himself and with the shower and so forth. So you're allowed, but it's makruh in overall to sleep on janaba. Let me mention a hadith a man asked the Imam alayhi salam about somebody who is in a state of janaba and he wants to sleep. Is he allowed? عن الرجل يجنب ثم يريد النوم. A man who is in a state of janab but he wants to sleep now. Can he sleep without doing the ghusl? Is he allowed? فقال عليه السلام, the Imam says, إن أحب أن يتوضأ فليفعل. If he can do wudu and he goes back to sleep, let him do so.
Okay.
That's one option. وَالْغُسْلُ أَحَبُّ إِلَيْهِ, the Imam says. The best preference to me is to do ghusl. That's the best option. I would like this option to be done, as a preference. وأفضل من ذلك, and it's better than the other act. فإن هو نام ولم يتوضأ. But the Imam says, okay, now this individual, he slept and he didn't perform the wudu. He was in a state of janaba in his bed. He doesn't want to get up, go to do the wudu, or even touch the body with any kind of wetness or water. فإن هو نام ولم يتوضأ ولم يغتسل. So he kept, he went to sleep without doing wudu or ghusl. فليس عليه شيء إن شاء الله تعالى. There's nothing as a sin or as a haram on this individual inshallah. But as I've said, the Imam says وَالْغُسْلُ أَحَبُّ إِلَيْهِ. The best option, the best preference is to do ghusl. Otherwise wudu and go back to sleep. To avoid the makruh and the karaha in this state. Because you are in the state of impurity.
Spiritual impurity, as they say.
So you try to remove it as soon as you can.
Yeah, indeed.
And be in the state of tahara.
Ahsan.
Especially while they want to sleep.
Yeah, inshallah. Ahsan. Shaykhna, when it comes to praying salah, and sometimes there's a lot of things to remember, and there's so much going through your mind, and sometimes there's so much outside noise and interference and distractions. If I'm confused between my third and fourth rakha, what is the hukm upon me? Do I treat it as my third? Do I treat it as my fourth?
You have to base it on the four, as they mention, the qaida of al-bina' al-akthar. To base it on the more, not on the less. So the more is 4 rak'ah. So you base this salah, because you're in doubt about 3 and 4, you base it on the 4, and you finish your salah, and then when you say assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, you stand up quickly without destroying the state of salah, and you recite 1 rak'ah of ihtiyat, which will fulfill and cover if it was just 3 rak'ah.
Yes.
This ihtiyat will
Just
recover.
Yes.
And replace the missing rak'ah. Otherwise, you've prayed 4 rak'ah, that's it.
Okay.
Should be fine.
So the 1 rak'ah is like just to compensate, just in case you haven't performed the fully 4. What about sajda saw? Is that part of it as well?
It doesn't mention it in this hukm.
Okay.
It doesn't mention.
Awesome. Shaykhna, we've got an email that's come in, and it's in regard to a married couple. A husband has abandoned his wife for 2 years, and he has not had marital relations, physical relations with her during that period. He has been reminded of his duties and responsibilities, but takes no action. Does the wife have the right to seek divorce from him through the marja or his representative? So I'm assuming these people have been married, they're still married obviously. Maybe he's moved away, for 2 years, maybe he's gone back to his home country or something, or something's happened. Anyway, they've kept distant for 2 years. Does the wife have a right to divorce via the marja or the wakil of the marja?
Yes, of course, if the husband is at fault and he doesn't maintain her, in other words, he doesn't pay her the required amount to actually cover her costs of living and so forth, clothing, food, drink, and so forth, and he doesn't maintain her physically, in other words. There are conditions with this regard that she can demand for divorce from Hakam Shar, the marja.
Yes.
According to these conditions. Then of course the marja can divorce her without going back to the husband, seeking his permission and all these requirements for the divorce.
The long way around.
Exactly, yeah.
Awesome. Shaykh, if one makes a will, and in his will states that I want 1/3 of my money to be spent in this way or that way or so forth. Do we have to honor that part of the will? Does that become mandatory?
Yes, it will be mandatory to act according to the will of this individual, because 1/3 is for this individual to make, the will for the cause that he wants to be spent on. So yes, we have to implement the will of this deceased. Yeah.
Shaykhna, questioning from the WhatsApp: is it halal to eat cloned animals? So, as you are aware, scientists have been trying to replicate different animals. The famous one I remember was Dolly the sheep. But these animals, obviously they haven't perfected it yet, but sooner or later maybe they shall. Are they halal for us to eat?
Yes, if they are from the halal meat category, like the sheep you mentioned, or the chicken, for example. The cloned animal is actually an animal, is a sheep at the end of the day. The subject is about being a sheep or chicken, for example. Then you can slaughter and eat it, that's fine, according to the halal procedures.
Ahsant. Shaykhna, euthanasia. Unfortunately, a very, very controversial issue, and one that affects our community and many, many other communities as well. When we have the elderly or the extremely sick who are no longer, what we say, they're brain dead now, they're like vegetables, just sitting there living off a life support machine and so forth. As Muslims, do we have a right to turn off the plug? Do we say, okay, this person is dead now, brain dead, even though the heart may still be beating, or the lungs may still be breathing with the aid of machinery? Are we allowed to pull the plug if these people are brain dead?
No, of course, it's not permissible to remove these machines from this individual, because he's not completely dead. When the soul departs the body, then of course he's announced it, and you do the amal of rituals of the deceased and the ghusl and so forth. But he's still alive in terms of the soul is still there. When the soul departs completely, fully dead, then of course you remove the machines. The man is dead, that's it. He's completely dead, then you remove the machines. Otherwise, you have to keep them. And sadly, I've heard a lot of stories about those who are in hospitals due to the virus and the pandemic issue around the world, that they remove the ventilators or the oxygen from those who are younger, older, and they give it to the younger patients. So they eventually die, over 50s, over 60s. So that's not allowed, to kill a human being. You have to, bring more supplies of oxygen and ventilators and so forth to save the rest of the people. But you can't take from one and place it to another. You have to try to save everyone. So that sadly has been going on for the past few months, that many died just because of removing these machines, and they were still alive, still breathing. They're still, living.
Full capacity of
human beings.
Living,
So sadly, they lost their lives because of not the virus. It's because of removing this oxygen or ventilator. Sadly.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. That's all we have time for. And thank you to all our viewers for joining us. If you have a question that you'd like to ask us, please send it in via the WhatsApp, send it in via the email address, or alternatively give us a call. We don't need to know your name. We don't need to know where you're asking from. We don't need any other information apart from your question. If it's in regard to one of our fabulous maraja, then no problem. We will contact the office or the official representatives and find out the exact hukam that is decreed by your marja. But inshallah, if you have any question, please send them in. We'll be back inshallah on Wednesday at 6:30 for another live show of Ahkam SOS here on Imam Hussein TV 3. See you then. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
We question our daily position, seeking answers and definitions. Get the queries off your chest with Ahkam SOS.